In this lesson, we're going to look at how to add text fields to a graphical user interface. So let's get started. We're going to call this program textfields.java. First of all, we'll import the swing libraries. Then we have to have two other import statements. One to import the abstract window toolkit, that's awt.star. And then to do event handling, because we need to start learning how to do that, we also need java.awt.event.star. I'll explain about event handling and why we also needed awt.star in just a minute. So we begin our program, and the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and declare the two widgets we're going to have in our interface, a label and a text field. So we're going to declare those first. Then we're ready to call our constructor. Let me line my code up here. I went over one space too many. So for our constructor, the first thing we're going to do is instantiate our label. And I should mention what we're going to do is we're going to have a text field and a label, and we're going to type data into the text field and hit enter and put that text into the label. Nothing fancy or even all that practical. It's just a good way to test our text field and to start thinking about event handling. Text fields are instantiated with the JTextField class. There are several different ways you can call the constructor. I'm going to call it this time with a number, an integer that represents the number of characters wide the text field is going to be. After we've run our program, I'm going to come back and change that to where we instead instantiate the text field with some text already in the field. But we'll start out with just specifying a size for the field. Next, we have to create our JFrame object. You've seen how to do that already. Now here's a new command or a new method that we're going to call setLayout. Because we have multiple widgets, we need to provide a window management system, a way to put these widgets in our frame or the window. So we're going to use something called a flow layout. You'll see how that works in just a minute. Now we're going to set the size for the frame, and we'll set it at 500/250. We also need to set our default close operation. We'll have it the same as before, which is a exit on close. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need to wire our interface to handle events. And to do that, we have to do something called adding an action listener. So we do that to the text field. And what we're saying is we're saying that we want the text field to be able to respond to events that occur when the user is working with that text field. In this particular case, it's going to be when the user hits the enter key after they've typed text into the text field. And here's how we do it. It's a little complex, so let me type in without speaking too much yet. I'll come back and discuss what I'm doing here as soon as I finish. I'm almost through here. There we go. So here we say add action listener. And to do that, we call the constructor for action listener. And we tell it that when an action is performed, capture that action and take the text out of the text field, that's where getText does, and put it in the label using the label's setText method. So all we're saying in all this code is that after the user types some text into a text field and they hit the enter key, take that text and put it in the label. So after that, we're ready to add the label to the frame. We're ready to add the text field to the frame. And we can change that order in just a moment. Then we want to make the frame visible. Now we're ready for our main program. And this looks like the previous example in the last lesson. So we call the constructor for our text fields class. Close the run method, close the invoke later method, and then close the argument, and then a semicolon, close and close. So let's test it out and see how it does. Save the file, come back to our command prompt, compile the program, and then run. I type some text and hit enter, and it puts the text in the label. Notice the label is to the left of the text box because of the way flow layout works. Let's go back to our code. Let's change the order. We'll put the text field first. Let's close up our code just to keep it all looking neat. Save, compile, and then run. Now when we type some text, it comes in on the other side. Flow layout works by simply flowing widgets onto the frame in the order that you tell them to be added. So by changing the order from the label coming first to the label coming second, we change the positioning of these two widgets. And the last thing I want to show you before we leave text fields is in this constructor, we'll change it from 20 to type text here being what will display in the text field when we run the program. Let's go to the screen, compile again, and then run. So we'll have to clear that out and see what you get. Notice that the field is the size of the text entered. So our text field box is only wide enough to display type text here, which is what we passed into the constructor. So that wraps up this lesson on text fields, and we're ready to move on to the next lesson where we're going to discuss how to work with buttons.